juicy. Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're looking to make barbecue cheap again, so I'm cooking a 10-pound pork loin. Okay, so here we have the pork loin. It's 9.28 pounds, and at $1.99 a pound, it comes out to $18.47. That's a lot of meat for not a lot of money. So one of the issues that we've been running into lately is that because barbecue has become so popular, so many people are doing it in their own backyards, which is awesome, by the way, but because that's been happening, a lot of the favorite barbecue items that people love to smoke have increased in price. So briskets are very expensive, ribs are not cheap, pork butts even have gone up significantly in price, but there are a few things that you can make that are delicious that don't cost a lot of money. One of my favorites is pork loin and pork tenderloin, but if you're serving a large group of people, something you'd serve with a brisket, you can use a pork loin, and it's dirt cheap, and it's gonna taste amazing when we do it this way. With pork, it doesn't have as much flavor as when you're cooking beef, so it needs a little extra help to build in flavor. So what we're gonna do first is I am gonna use mustard as a binder. Now, I typically don't do this with briskets. They come out of the package, I season them with salt and pepper, I put them on the smoker, and I focus on the cook more than the seasoning. But for this, because it's gonna be a relatively short cook, and because the pork isn't just bursting with flavor the same way a really high quality piece of beef is, we're gonna have to treat it differently. So this is gonna go on the outside to bind the rub that we're gonna use. Now when it comes to the rub that we're gonna use, first we have Lowry seasoned salt. I've tried this a number of times. I really like it with pork. It kind of adds a richness to the flavor of the meat that's hard to achieve with just salt and pepper. Next up, we have coarse ground black pepper. Somebody who loves barbecue and uses salt and pepper on basically everything, I want extra pepper in there because I want to really taste it, and it also helps bark up the outside of the meat. Then, because this isn't going to be a long cook, because we're not going to cook this to tenderness at 203 or something like that, we're going to take it until it's just barely done to maximize the juiciness, but we still want really good color, so I'm going to use some ancho chili powder. Now you can use regular chili powder, you can use paprika, but in my experience, those don't really provide any kind of flavor. The ancho chili powder provides both flavor and color. It's kind of an earthy note that is really nice when you have the combination of salt and smoke and the fat that's in the meat. It's really wonderful. And then, because I like spicy, and I think it has a great flavor, I'm also gonna use chipotle powder. So this has kind of got about the same heat level as cayenne. Of course, it varies from one manufacturer to the next, but this is my favorite way to add some spice to the stuff that I cook. I want to take a chance to thank today's sponsor, Made In. Now, I have bought lots of pans and pots in the past, and I've always been disappointed. I remember even when I spent like all the money that I could afford to spend on getting some what I thought were high quality pots and pans, I was left disappointed. They didn't really work the way I wanted them to. There was uneven heating, but with Made In, it's been completely different. I can't express to you how much I love these pans. They're really the only pans I use at this point. The two pans that I use the most frequently are this nonstick pan, which gets used literally every single morning to make eggs. We had a cupboard full of pans, but this is the only one that gets pulled out. So it's great. I mean, the nonstick coating looks as good today as the first day we got it, even despite the heavy use. In addition to that, the carbon steel pan is the one that I get to use most frequently. I love to use it for searing steaks. It basically does everything a cast iron pan does, but even better. It's lighter weight and the handle is better. It's just handier in every way. As a matter of fact, I love these pans so much that I'm actually gonna get more of these, try different stuff. They've been phenomenal. But there's a reason that they're so good. Made In uses the highest quality materials, and they use the world's best craftsmen to make professional quality stuff. There are tens of thousands of 5-star reviews for this product online. In addition, Made In has a lifetime guarantee, so if you have any worries about these things breaking down, Made In's gonna take care of you. One thing I learned in culinary school is the difference that professional quality pans make. And these are professional quality. So if you're interested in this, you can go to the website. And by the way, if you get on the website, you're probably gonna spend an hour there because they have so much amazing stuff. Like just looking at the copper pots and pans is mind-blowing. It's so cool. And if this interests you, right now, Made In is offering our viewers 15% off of your first order when you use promo code MAD. Just go to madeincookware.com/MAD and use promo code MAD for 15% off your first order. That is the best deal you're going to find anywhere online for Made In products. That's madeincookware.com/MAD and use promo code MAD. Okay, at this point we have a lot of seasonings on the outside that should really help us build a nice crust when we get to that point. So let me give you the breakdown of how we're going to do this cook. I'm doing it on a pellet smoker. It's not my favorite way, but right now I'm cooking on a pellet smoker as much as I possibly can as I work to figure out the perfect way to do a brisket. So we're going to be using that today. But we have a lot of seasonings on the outside. We're going to take this thing, we're going to put it in the pellet smoker at 180 degrees. At this point, we're trying to slowly raise the temperature and build smoke flavor on the outside. Once we hit an internal temperature of 120, I'm going to dial this thing up to 500 degrees, basically trying to sear the outside of that piece of meat to build another kind of flavor, try to produce that Maillard reaction, that beautiful flavor that you get on the outside of a steak after it's been seared perfectly. And here's the final thing. This you may not be expecting. We're going to pull this thing off when it reaches 145 degrees internal because the USDA has updated their guidelines. Now you can cook pork roasts and large pieces of pork, not ground pork though, but those big pieces you can cook to 145 degrees, allow it to rest for 3 minutes, and it's safe. And we're going to let this rest a little bit longer than 3 minutes. So that's the plan. I'm using Lumberjack 100% oak pellets at this point. So 180 degrees, this is going to go on until it reaches an internal temp of 120. So let's get it on. All right, we hit 120 internal, so now I'm gonna dial this thing up as hot as it goes. On this one, it's 500 degrees. Now this has a couple benefits. The first one is right when you turn it up, it's gonna dump extra pellets into the smoker, so you get another little hit of smoke flavor right at the beginning, and then we're gonna try to get that sear on the outside. Now one important thing to remember is that diffuser plate that's underneath is gonna give off a lot of radiant heat, so you may need to turn this pork loin over so that no side burns. You make sure that you get a good crust, but nothing turns black. We pulled this thing off when the thickest part hit 145, and we've given it a few minutes to rest. You gotta let it rest 3 minutes for it to be safe, according to the USDA. And so we've given it that amount of time and a little bit more, and it's just kind of oozing out juices. It smells incredible. I tried to put a paper towel here to catch the juices, but that's not super successful. If it's gonna be as juicy on the inside as the amount of juice it's putting on this cutting board, it's gonna be really good. So I am gonna cut it in half, but before I do, just listen to this sound. That's the sear we were able to get on it. So I'm really happy with that. So I'm gonna separate this probably in half and then do some slicing and then ultimately some tasting. Okay, it's the moment of truth. We're gonna answer the question, can you make great barbecue for $18.47? If the smell is any indication, you absolutely can. So what you might not know about pork loin is that it's actually extremely lean. So you think of pork and you think of it being fatty. Well, actually the pork loin is pretty darn lean, and so to keep it juicy is really a huge battle. And so kind of take it up to 120 easily and then quickly sear it off so you get the crust on the outside, but you don't dry out the inside. So each slice that I looked at, filled with juice, very happy about that, and the aroma is great. Also, if the amount of juice on this cutting board doesn't tell you how juicy this thing is, then I don't think there's any way to convince you. But let's test this out here. Oh, man, that's good. I get the chipotle on the outside too. To sum it up, I am blown away with how good this is. You know, my wife actually told me before I cooked this that she didn't think it was going to be very good because she tried to cook one once and it was a disaster. And she came over here and tried it, and then tried another piece, and then another piece, and then went back to the camera, then came back to try another piece. You gonna try this?
It's so good.
Isn't that great? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
Hey, give me some more. Man, that is so good.
If you'd done it on offset, it'd be even better. I feel like I could eat a ton of this because I don't eat this every day.
Wait, I need some more.
And so we're finally filming this, but she loves it. I love it. I don't think you can find a better value for anything that you put on the smoker than on this pork loin. You have a little bit of roasted flavor from the time when we were trying to kind of sear the outside. You have smoke flavor from when we build in the smoke flavor at the beginning. And it's kind of a firmer texture than what you're used to with barbecue, but it's absolutely delicious. And if it can stay moist, it gets smoky on the outside, and you don't have to overcook this thing and dry it out, it is beautiful stuff. Now, a few closing notes here. I left the fat on that one side just to kind of protect it and hopefully lock in more of that juice. I think it was totally good. The fat kind of rendered down when we got the grill really hot, so that's really nice. It kind of just absorbed itself into the bark. And another thing is, if you're not a fan of spicy, maybe you can just omit the chipotle powder, but everything else in there is so good. It's so simple, and it's so darn cheap that there's no reason you shouldn't go try it. If you guys like this, I'm thinking about starting kind of a series on cheap cuts to make in your smoker, because I love to barbecue all the time, but going and spending $100 on a brisket isn't always a fun time, especially when there aren't enough people in my immediate family to eat it all. And so I think I'm going to start a series on that. If you want a series on cheap cuts that you can turn into amazing barbecue, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, check out these other videos. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time.